You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time to kick off another week here on the Options Insider Radio Network. What better way to do that than with, of course, episode 1 of the bi-weekly Options Extravaganza. That is the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from the aforementioned network, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting, at least we hope so, OptionsInsider.com. Reminding you, this is week 2 now, just kicking off, going into high gear here of all the fun going on in the land of Options Insider Plus and Pro. Glad to see so many of you have embarked upon this journey with us. Like I said, we're still in that launch window where we're still ramping up to full deployment here. A lot of fun stuff going on. A lot of you have been asking, hey, what's the schedule? What's going on? So we put out our first ever. You folks who've all joined already have all got your first members update going out last night, telling you exactly what's coming up this week. We got the second Pro Q&A. You guys loved the one last week. It took them the full time span out there, plus more, sending in more questions. So we're going to have another fun one tomorrow. It's going to be with the flow master himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz. He's going to answer all of your crazy questions about options flow and how this crazy meme stuff is just affecting the options market and completely unanticipated and just insane. You want the guy who knows that stuff. That's the reason why I call him the flow master. It's not just made up. That's going to be tomorrow. Again, that's for the pro folks. We're still working our way behind the scenes to fire up. I know a lot of you like the stuff on demand, or I should say live, like the stuff live, not just on demand, like it live in your ear holes, like to get it before it all goes out to the network. It's going to be switching over pretty soon to the members only servers coming up pretty soon. So if you sign up for the pro, sign up for the plus at least, and then you get the code for the members only server. They're still hammering away at that behind the scenes. It's supposed to go live this week. So you guys get a reprieve there in the live chat there. You don't need the code yet, but we'll be going towards that, at least for the Option Block and for a few other shows going forward. Still have a few coming out to the main Mixlr audience. So if you're still just kind of dipping your toes in every now and then, I think Twifo will still be on there and a couple others, but the Option Block will be on there. Boot Camp, a lot of the ones you guys like to listen to live. We're going to be going on to that Options Insider Plus and Pro, easy for me to say, private servers. That's going to be fun. So you guys get that. You can chat in there throughout the day. All kinds of cool stuff going on out there. So they're still knocking out the bells and whistles. So you guys get an extra week, an extra reprieve. You can listen to us live and enjoy the fun. And everyone else who signed up, we're enjoying it. We're having a good time. And looking forward to fun stuff. And speaking of looking forward to fun things, I know Uncle Mike's been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. It's been a while since you had a chance to do this. I know a lot of you love it as well. So it's time to kick off the network proper the way it's supposed to be with the Guess That 80s Wrestlers entrance music.
Everybody's got a price. Everybody's gonna pay. is the $1 Million Man. Always it's his way.
All right, it keeps going for a while. I was going to cut it off before they said a certain thing, but I thought we are joined first now. Let's give him a better shot, because I know he has absolutely zero shot at this. We are joined first by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Finally got his butt off the couch. His back is feeling better. He's able to talk into a microphone again. Mr. Rock Lobster, A, welcome back to the program. And B, I know you have no clue who that is, but if you listened hard, he may have said his name. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, A, welcome back to the program. And B, can you hazard a guess who that was, sir?
It's very good to be back. I am off the couch. But in all fairness, like as soon as you played the theme song, TOSAW like pounded like, hey, I got it. I know exactly who this is. And I feel bad. I'm just going to go $1 Million Man, the $1 Million Man.
Yes, you got it. Well done. I knew you were coming. I wanted to play one you at least had a chance of getting if he said his name. Yes.
Yes, I feel better because if you were to give me an extra credit, it's like an extra credit question that says, what color was George Washington's white horse? Like, if I screwed this one up, it's the only one I'll ever get.
I expect TOSAW to get this. If he didn't know the $1 Million Man, a.k.a. Ted DiBiase, then I would be very disappointed by Uncle Mike. He was one of those 80s stalwarts. He had Virgil, the bodyguard. He had the $1 Million belt. He was kind of the original money gimmick. They're kind of ripping it off. I actually think he made an appearance recently on recent WWE stuff. So I think someone's trying to do that modern version of that $1 Million gimmick, and he was coming in to slam them or something. So yeah, he's still floating around, which is good to see. Most of those guys are dead, so at least he's up and kicking. Now we go out to the land of St. Charles, where I know he's pounding on his keyboard in frustration. He wanted that one. Mr. Uncle Mike, A, welcome back to the program. I can see you typing in there, so I'll give you like half credit for that. But B, how much did you love the $1 Million Man, sir?
He was a classic. I mean, with Virgil and what he did for the sport, I got a lot of respect for Ted DiBiase with where he's at. He was a hardcore boozer in his day, but he's actually another one of those guys that he found Jesus in the end, and he's doing really well today. So it's good to see that. And I was a huge fan back in the day of him, and he really, my favorite thing that they did is they had him go to a public swimming pool, and he bribed the pool attendant to close the pool. He said, you can't do that. And then so Ted DiBiase, trying to prove everyone has their price, he kept giving him more and more $100 bills until the guy agreed to close the pool. Then finally, they closed the pool, and Ted DiBiase was in there enjoying the pool by himself, and all the kids are on the outside being mad at him. And Ted DiBiase did his evil laugh and said, everyone has their price.
Yes, one of the better heels back in the 80s day. Who can remember his, Macho Man had Miss Elizabeth, and Ted DiBiase, he had Virgil, one of those great gimmicks. And then eventually they imploded and all sorts of madness ensued. Good times were had by all as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, let's kick it off. Let's do it. Let's see what's lighting up our tapes out here in the trading block to kick off this trading week. And, another one of those kind of weird days, a little bit mixed out there on most of the major indices. S&P kind of playing the Goldilocks yet again, off about 0.25%. So in the red, but not a bloodbath by any means. Dow, not quite 0.5%, a little over 0.4% to the dark side. And NASDAQ bucking the trend, looking a little bit upside, up about 0.1%, a little bit more than that. So the markets are mixed. It means vol products are mostly kind of mixed down here as well. VIX cash got a 16 handle coming into the show now at about 16 3/4 when we kicked off the show. That puts it down about exactly a point from where it was this time last show. VVIX, the vol of vol, right around the same level it was last time, down about 2 points to about a 110. And VXX to kick off the show was at a 33.30. That puts it down, whopping 1.7 points from where it was this time last show. Looks like it's closing in on the 33 handle even as we speak out there right now. So a lot of downside to be felt out there yet again in VXX. And vol Q, and at the money vol of the NASDAQ at about 18 1/4, down about 3/4 of a point. And since he got it so audaciously and amazingly, he was able to guess the $1 Million Man, shocking the world. I think it's the first time he's ever gotten one right, Mr. Rock Lobster, but I digress. Let's go out to the land of just fog and darkness and oppressive thundering rain and shadows and fog. Yes, it's Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. A, how stunned are you that you got that question right? And then B, what's lighting up your tape today, sir?
Yes, I was quite stunned. I got the question right, but I have to admit it was a bit of a lead-in, and I gave TOSAW credit. He had the answer already typed in before he heard the $1 Million Man. I was trying to remember if I remember that guy, but I couldn't tell you. I'm just assuming, he wore some spandex outfit and had kind of long, curly, permed hair. Anyway, what is on? Okay, so this weekend, I'm hearing weird, okay, we're going to have a global tax on companies, right? So I think, the big ideas coming out of Washington now are global tax on big companies. Oh, okay, I'm sure they're coming up with lots of ways to grow the economy. I'm not sensing that, right? So again, so you look at, and you could be on whatever side of the fence you think, oh, tax Apple more, or whatever. I don't care. But, you're concerned about how the market reacts to all this stuff. Especially if you're trading on a daily basis, and which I am. And I'm looking at wow, okay, SPX is down 0.3 of a point, and the Qs are down 0.1 of a point. Not very much. The VIX is only up, I would say, basically the weekend effect, maybe a little less, to be honest. So vol feels actually lower, and as you mentioned, the vol products are a little lower, so the futures are a little lower. Not a huge reaction. Now, is because they push it out to later? Don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's not like they're all going to just tomorrow say we're going to tax companies more. But either way, I did not find it bullish, and the market is down today after touching recent highs closing on Friday. So I'm going to say that the news has been taken as a negative, but not a big negative. Mostly just kind of a blah type of reaction. Things that is Meme Central is back. Well, let's just go through the list. Okay, you don't buy regular stocks, but you buy AMC is up 21% today. Chico's closed. That's the ticker CHS. That stock was languishing in the twos. Now it's $6. I guess people are shopping again. That was another meme name. BlackBerry BB. That was another one, Bed Bath & Beyond. All of a sudden, the meme names are getting hot again. And that's also, I think, another watch in the tape. I thought they had that big Bitcoin conference, and, all over Twitter, there's the crazy guy, hell with Elon Musk, and all that kind of stuff. We're not selling our Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. And I'm seeing no pop out of that big rah-rah conference. Coinbase is up $2. And it's still down around $200 from its highs at the beginning of April. So as far as what's going on, I think, okay, it's June. VIX is 1677, and we've had earnings are out. I guess we have an Apple Developers Conference coming up, but not a lot of catalysts. And they're also talking up. Yellen's like, I think interest rates should be higher. I'm okay. Higher interest rates will be good for the economy, and we'll just gas spending, and it'll all be good. So anyway, a lot of, I would say normally there was no market positive news about companies growing bottom line and people going back to work kind of news. It's mostly, let's see, again, Fauci kind of getting skewered on Twitter. So, they're talking about, okay, the lab. So I think there's some answers there. The COVID thing still kind of reigns. I still call this the COVID trading era because we haven't gotten back to zone one since we started. That's reality. So when I trade volatility like this, I do it in blocks. Okay, what was vol before the event and after? We've still been in this event now for over a year because we have not gotten back to the zone we started in, which was zone one. So it's been a very long event. So it's not over yet as far as I'm concerned in the way I trade it. and we're right at the bottom of the range for COVID right now. So we're sitting right here waiting for new news. Now TOSAW, he can read his tea leaves because he's, and he's kind of our perma bull when there's good reason to be. And so the market's not selling off on really selling off on what I thought was no good news coming out of Washington at all this weekend. And it's just kind of hanging out. So what do I think about that? It's bullish. So that's where we sit. And I'm looking at that, and yeah, could VIX make new lows? Sure, but this is the point where it has stopped, 8 times in the last year. So, we could see like it prints the 15 handle for about 3 seconds, then pops back up. So maybe this is the week, but all I can say is when they have no good news over the weekend, and, unless you count, we know where the virus, probably came from. I'm saying the odds of the virus coming from that lab, but I thought this last year anyway, and people thought it was nuts. It's like 95%. I'm sorry. I don't believe in coincidences anymore after trading for 30 years. So, but anyway, I think that's going to end up being vol negative and market positive if they get a little bit more answer on all this stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm watching. And watching the rebirth of every meme stock that ever lived in January or February.
The meme names. Actually, this was floating around Twitter this morning. I obviously haven't had a chance to go out and check it for myself, but a lot of photos coming in from down the street here at Citadel HQ, where someone, those moving billboard vans. You don't really have them in Maine, Mr. Rock Lobster, but we have them here downtown. They drive around. They have light up billboards on them. And someone parked one of those out front of Citadel HQ, and it's just putting out AMC pretty much messages. It says, hey, hashtag AMC, we're still not leaving. And then AMC, we own the float, and a bunch of other things. Apes, I guess for the AMC apes, they call themselves and stuff. So what do you think of that, Mr. Rock Lobster? The meme kids parking a light up billboard about AMC in front of Citadel HQ, sir, down the street.
I think that's pretty awesome. But since Ken Griffith is probably one of the smartest guys on the planet when it comes to trading, I can't imagine he's worried a whole lot. He's just going to charge people 1,000 vol again for the calls and tell them to go bite him. So
yeah, I think he moved all of their HQ, a lot of their operations off to Florida a while anyway during the beginning of the pandemic. So who knows how much is even going on there in Citadel HQ. But nonetheless, it makes for a fun Twitter troll photo at the very least. By the way, my son's home from summer vacation now, and he's listening to the early part of the show, as you're wont to do when you got nothing to do on a summer vacation. He wanted to remind me that $1 Million Man also worked with IRS. That was the other part of his gimmick, Erwin R. Shyster. So it was Virgil and also IRS. So there you go. I forgot to mention good old IRS. Mr. Uncle Mike, do you have any fond memories of IRS? And then B, what's lighting up your tape out there today?
As a matter of fact, I do. And I'm this literally is the first thing that popped into my head. At SummerSlam 92, the opening match was DiBiase and IRS on a tag team matchup against the Road Warriors. So that's one thing that I remember about it. When they did take on the greatest wrestling tag team of all time, our viewers have
Demolition. Yes, Demolition. I recall correctly that they are the greatest tag team of all time. Yes.
The people have spoken. So if you want baseless claims about what happened with our election, the people have spoken, Mr. Longo. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, IRS, he was another classic. He really ticked people off, and he did a very good job of it. So this is I'm kind of with Andrew in that the market is in wait and see mode, and it's waiting and seeing. It wants to just get some type of good news, it feels like, in that we're right at we made new all-time highs right before the close on Friday, but not by much. And so this is kind of our third test of our all-time highs. In the last month or so, we had something early May, and then we had something about a week ago, and then of course on Friday. And so right now it looks like we just don't have enough buyers to break us through to new heights and to the new all-time high levels. And so we just need for those people that are trolling around Citadel, don't tell them AMC in your face. Tell them to just buy a bunch of S&P index funds. That's what I'd prefer, quite honestly. But anyway, with that, I think that the market is waiting for some type of good news, just to kind of add to what Andrew said. Because of the fact that it does not want to go to all-time highs. And so if we do go to the zones, zone one, as Andrew put it with the VIX, it's probably going to take new all-time highs in the S&P for us to do it. And so it feels to me like there's a lot of resistance at these levels. This was our third test that we couldn't really break through, or the third time we tried in the last month on Friday. But the thing that does give me optimism is a lot of times, if you get a triple top, a lot of times they don't hold up very well as resistance. Now, can't promise anything of what's going to happen, but I think that is pretty bullish, along with what Andrew had said, and that if there is no good news and the market just kind of does very minimal, and that we're down, I think, 11 points in the SPX today, that's really not a bad thing. The other thing that I'm seeing is that we had a little bit of a run-up last week, and by run-up meaning something very tiny in the 10-year note, and bonds themselves are actually down very slightly today. The values themselves, the yields are up very slightly as well. And so if Janet Yellen can go out and say that she likes higher interest rates, I remember back in, and I know she's not the Fed person anymore, she's the Secretary of the Treasury, but if someone like in her position would have said that years ago, then I really believe that values of bonds would have gone down on that. So it's one of two things. It's either the market already kind of figured that interest rates were going to come up a little bit, or it was overbought or bonds were overbought to begin with during the pandemic, which is my belief. So I'm kind of surprised that we didn't get more of a sell-off, or more of a reaction in the bond world from Janet Yellen's comments, because it's really not moving at all, quite honestly. But I guess that's our market world. So with that, I'm going to go and maybe I should just go buy some more meme stocks. What the heck? I'll go buy some AMC and some, we got AMC, then maybe throw in a little bit of GameStop, and why not? Let's do some Bitcoin. What the heck? I got to go.
I was going to say, Yellen. Who cares about Yellen? She doesn't have a cool hashtag. She's not parking light up billboards outside of Citadel HQ. You know what fun is she? No one's paying attention to her, sir. It's all about the hashtag memes. Let's see if those meme kids can once again topple the titans that are Apple and Tesla. We'll see in a minute there. We'll get to those hot options lighting up the tape in a second. First, let's go out to the big indices that are lighting it up, and kind of lighting it up today, a bit of a misnomer when it comes to the indices. You know, VIX ADV has ticked up. It's back over 600,000, 601 to be precise right now. So it's been a while since we've seen that level of ADV out there in VIX land. Doesn't seem like they're going to hit it today, though. Today, pretty anemic. Only 104,000 contracts on the tape out there in VIX land right now. SPY looking a little bit more robust, closing in on half of its ADV, a little bit over 1.8 million on the tape. And SPY right now, the ADV about 4.25 million. The S also looking pretty light. Its ADV has remained pretty strong, around 1.3 million. That's a pretty high level for them, at least the recent high. But the S right now, only about 583,000 contracts on the tape. You know, you've listened into the show for a while. That usually by this time in the show, usually they're north of 700K. So a little light in the S as well. The Q is looking very light, only 408,000 contracts on the tape. Their ADV is about 1.3 million. So they got a little ways to go before they're going to hit that today. Probably not. And small caps, at least the IWM lens, also looking kind of light as well, only about 279,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV, 542,000. Now let's get to the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's see what's dominating our top 10 once again. It is a very active day, listeners. The indexes don't tell you even a fraction of the story of what's going on. Right now, this market is pretty much all single names all the time. For example, it costs you about 250,000 contracts right now to break into our top 10 most active here today. That's about almost $100,000 more than we typically see on your average, otherwise normally kind of sleepy, kind of quiet Monday. That gets you to Palantir. You know it's an active day when Palantir is all the way down at number 10. 253,000 contracts for them. Number 9, Facebook. Facebook managing to hang with the meme kids, at least for now. 271,000. We'll see how long that can hold up. Number 8, we're already past 300K, listeners. That's Ford. Ford, it's kind of looking memey these days. Is Ford a meme stock? I put that to you on the Options Oddities show on Friday. It's getting harder and harder to say no. It doesn't meet all the classic definitions. Obviously, there's a lot of float, more than you probably would like in a meme name, and it's not super shorted to death. But from a everyone's buying and gobbling it up, and it's becoming kind of the hot fad name, it does meet that definition. For number 8, 308,000. Number 7, Sundial, back in our top 10 again. Looks like these names have had a little bit of a resurgence. See how Sundial's doing today. 118. This thing was trading 60-odd cents, so it's pretty much doubled over the course of the past 3 weeks to a month or so out here. So a little bit of a good run out there. 317,000. I know there were a lot of concerns from folks about dilution in names like Sundial. They had just dumped as much stock as they possibly could. So it wasn't, one share didn't get you a lot out there, but apparently it gets you up to about $1.20 right now. And it's 317,000 contracts out there. Number 6, it's Neo, 330,000 contracts. Number 5, name we haven't talked about in the top 10 in a while. Maybe this one's getting a little bit of meme love as well. This is Clover Health, ticker symbol CLOV, CLOV. This is about 1120, off about 218 today. So a good bump for them today. That's a huge move, nearly 25%. And they got 369,000 contracts on the tape today as well. So a good run for Clover Health. Number 4 is the Meatball's favorite. If he's not on the show, he's probably slinging this. It's BlackBerry. Good for 426,000 contracts on the tape. Let's see what BlackBerry is up to right now. 1633, up about $2.50 or nearly 18% on the day. So yeah, all the meme kids are rocking and rolling. You know what names I haven't said yet? Well, all the way at number 4. I haven't said Apple and Tesla. Let's see if we can find those. Number 3, I'm going to say one of them right now. It's Tesla, 476,000. So, again, kind of putting the argument to some of these meme names, maybe stealing some of the thunder, particularly for a Tesla, but certainly maybe even for the big dog Apple as well. We'll get to that. Tesla only, I say only in air quotes, 476,000 contracts. Usually it's at least a few 100,000 more than that this time of day. So, clearly some of the folks who are flocking into those options are now maybe having their attention drawn elsewhere. Some of these other, shall we say, more attractive names, the Clovers, the Neos, the BlackBerry, you pick it, AMC, they're looking elsewhere apparently and not at Tesla. Still good enough for number 3. Number 2, yes, number 2 is Apple, 660,000 contracts. Again, you've listened to the show for a little bit. You know, Apple's usually 2x that by now. We're close to it, at least north of 1 million. And we're not even close to that today. So 660,000, clearly this meme phase is just sucking away a lot of volume from these big names because number 1, the big dog yet again, AMC taking the crown yet again, kicking Apple, kicking Tesla to the curb, 993,000 contracts, just a tick under 1 million. That's where Apple normally is right now, if not more. So yeah, this is a seismic shift. Will this last? Can this last? I don't think it's crazy to say it probably can't last for a name like AMC. Can the ever-evolving world of meme stocks continue as they continue to find more that attract them? That potentially could. This kind of wave that is carrying these stocks can keep rolling along and carrying different names with it. It's already shifted out to Ford and some other names. So, but AMC right now, still the king of the hill, almost 1 million contracts. Let's look really quickly where the most biased paper is today. It looks like it is in Sundial, 84% of that 317,000 coming on the call side of the ledger. Followed number 2, Palantir, 83%. We get to AMC, it's only 60%. It's 60-40. This kind of gets back to what I was saying on the Options Oddity show last week. You know, don't get all nuts about the call skew out there because there are a lot of puts trading. You know, outside of these weird aberrant prints like the 140, 145 calls that went out on Friday, outside of that nonsense, there are puts trading too. So it's not quite as call rich as you might think. But you want to dive deep into that, we're going to do that tomorrow with the Flow Master. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to break down all that fun out there in the land of AMC and the memes and what's going on with the skew and the order flow and everything else. If there ever was a time to do that, now is it, listeners. So stay tuned for that. Let's look really quickly out there to the land of earnings. We're still waiting for the latest earnings move results reports for coming in. So, but we do have some previews as well. As soon as the latest earnings move results is in from the folks at ORATS, it'll be up there on the site for you to click on. But right now we still have reports here for Five Below. They're popping off. Let's see. Oh, that was last week. Let's go out to the ones coming up this week, and they are not there. So we'll just, here we go. We got Marvell. Marvell on the 7th, 47.5. And they were pricing in 238. In the past, they've moved 230. So pretty much in line. They've gotten the memo out there in the land of Marvell. But you know who hasn't gotten the memo? It's those crazy odd block traders. They keep trading it up. So we'll keep profiling because it's time for the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, let's kick it off. Let's dive in. Let's unleash the Eye of Sauron. Before we do that really quickly, Mr. Rothbus, I'm curious. I know your compatriot there, Mr. Meatball, has been lured to the dark side with the Robin Hood stuff, and he's looking at the blackberries and stuff. Have you also been lured to the dark side? Have you been slinging any options, any fun, freebie butterflies or anything on some of these meme names, sir?
I so funny. So I slightly a little bit, like I'm long some Palantir calls and I'm kind of waiting for that to heat up. And my son had bought some AMC when it was like $16, like in January or February or whatever. And he rode it all the way down to 7. And when it started moving again, he sold it at $19. And then he wants to go to 50. So that's when I introduced him to the concept of a stop order on his stock.
That's a good lesson in pain.
Yes. I mean, he still made money. That was good, but he definitely watched it go. So, and Mark has done well. He kind of retooled his gamma radar, a Robin Hood radar. It works. He kind of has it kind of souped up now. So I mostly just follow the trades he does. It's easier because that way he does all the work and I just get to make some money. So I kind of like that part. But I think he closed some BB calls or call spreads this morning. I've been doing it. It wasn't really a meme name, but I was watching Biogen because I thought their Alzheimer drug was going to go positive. And if you look at IBB today, it's up like quite a bit, like $5 or $6. And I closed some IBB calls. So I know that qualifies as a meme name, more like an event name. But I only dabble in the meme names. I like them when kind of like Palantir, where it was a meme name, it gets quiet, and then the vol gets down to the 50s or something like that, and then I buy some and wait for something to happen again and see. It's not a huge type of position, but enough that it will take the grumps away if we get a little bit of a move.
I like it. Teach the kids early about the pain of trading meme stocks. I think it's definitely, for a lot of people psychologically, it's worse to have, if you bought a stock and you lose, it went from 16 to 7 or wherever, you get stopped out. That's painful. But I think for a lot of people, 16 to 7 and have it go back up and then make money on it, which is a good thing. You're right. You shouldn't be mad. And yet then still see it go up beyond that to 50. I think that's more painful psychologically for a lot of people. It's a weird hiccup we have mentally as humans.
Yes.
We're much rather, we have much more FOMO than we do actual fear of losing, I think. The fear of missing out on potential gains hurts people even more, which is why they sometimes cling to some of these crazy names that perhaps beyond when they should. Speaking of crazy names, let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Found some weird ones today, which is kind of interesting. Let's kick it off first. Name we haven't talked about in a long time. This is DocuSign Inc. Ticker symbol DOCU, D-O-C-U. Trading right now, 240 and a quarter, up $7 exactly, just ticked, and exactly 3%. So having a nice day. This name has had quite the little turbulent year here, but it's pretty rich, 240 and change, which may explain the trade we're going to see in a couple of seconds here. A year ago, this name was a little bit shy of 150, 146 and a half, June of last year. Then it rallied up by September 1st. It got up to, by the way, we're June 7th. We're almost at June 8th, which was the apex of the market for a lot of names last year before they sold off hard and then kind of came back towards the beginning of this year. So we'll have to see how this looks from a year-on-year perspective. Remember, how many names did we talk about last year? Oh, June 8th, that was the day. So we're closing in on that day again, listeners, which maybe merits some more attention. But this name popped out early at 268 on September 1st. So it rallied hard from 146 on June 7th to 268, on September 1st. Then it kind of sold off and it spent the next, looks like until February, kind of bouncing between 194 and 262. So a big range, up and down a few times. Got up to 265 again on February 19th and it sold off hard down to 192 again on March 8th. Then back up April 26th to 234. Then it gave up the ghost again. It's a very, very volatile electronic document signing name. Got down to 180 on May 13th. And then recently, looks like they had a nice little pop here because it was trading 194 back on June 3rd. And then a session or two later, and today, is trading 240 now. So a nice little pop here, whether it's earnings or yet just another mad dash to this upside here in DocuSign, because they've had a few of them over the course of the past year, which again could explain maybe what this next trade we have going on. Because our Eye of Sauron found a 5,000 lot of the no pars, Mr. Rocklaw, so the 200s this time. 200 calls going up for a whopping $49.50. Kind of splitting the uprights. There were 47.85 at 50.75, so a pretty wide market on some of these. They were crossed on the opening side. The stock was about almost where it is right now, 240 and change when these went up. There are earnings in this cycle. Of course, there's going to be an announcement between now and November. The next earnings is expected on September 2nd. And if you're wondering, this is a 40 vol. I thought it'd be higher. It seemed like just how much movement we've seen out here. I thought it'd be a little bit higher than that. But a 40 vol, you can't say that's too cheap given this chart here. It's certainly been moving around quite a bit. Mr. Rocklop, so this seems like kind of the old school. We haven't seen this in a while here in the odd block of someone coming in, maybe looking at the stock price saying, yeah, 240, that's kind of rich. But, around $50, I'll do that 5,000 times. And so getting a little bit longer term out to November, getting a meteor call. Obviously, this is pretty in the money now, so you're talking well north of a 50 delta here. So this has the whiff, dare I say it, the air of a stock replacement, sir. And I got to say, on a name like this, maybe not the worst name to do it on. What are your thoughts on a stock replacement trade here on DocuSign, sir?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree there. I looked at this and I'm like, well, there's $6 in juice in it, right? And this is, I think, one of those pandemic winners where, okay, everybody's just going to do more signing over the internet. I've used DocuSign before. It works pretty good. But you look at it, and there's only $6 of juice in that call, right? Like, that's a 41 vol out to November. And I have to say, that's just, well, the stock was just $200. Now it's $240. So if you think about it, if this is somebody that was kind of savvy that owns the stock, they're like, oh, you know what I could do? I could sell all my stock and take the gain. I take that gain and go buy basically some 100 delta calls. So it's like, it's not really a house money roll, but you know what? It could be a house money roll out of stock and then into options and just riding, and maybe looking for another pop in the stock. But that's what it feels like. I don't think they're writing this. They're writing it for $9 over parity. I'm not sure yield wise how good that is. Let's see. That would be 5% in November. I don't know. I don't know if that really gets you excited. I could see how possibly you can make a case either way because they could write it. Stock pulls back, they buy back the calls, and then look for the stock to launch higher. But it does. I feel like your first thought, based on the pricing, is more of a somebody's buying those calls as a stock replacement, just based on all the price action I'm looking at.
Yeah, it definitely has the whiff of that. And you're right. You can maybe take issue with the $9 or so of extra juice they packed in there. That could certainly come back to bite them. But it's certainly a lot less than the $250 they could have spent on the stock if they were going. And you're right. It could definitely be a house money roll from the stock. We don't see the stock legs really. Harder to track them over time, obviously, than it is the options. So they could be sitting on some gains. I like this, maybe not so much this exact trade, but I like this thought process here, especially around this time. People are just getting crazy nuts on some of these names. Some of these names are getting crazy overvalued. Maybe you still want some of the appreciation, but you don't want to, just have all the downside anymore. So you migrate, dump the stock, you go into a meteor option. So you're not exactly fighting with all the meme kids to bid up the far out of the money call win. You're going in the money a bit. So that'll give you a little bit more meat on the bone there. And of course, if the worst comes to pass now, this guy's only on the hook for $50 as opposed to $250. So that kind of thing is nice. And of course, to the downside, the Greeks actually work in your favor. Vol pops up, slows how much you're losing. Your delta drops, so that slows how much money you lose. So in the worst case scenario, much better to have the stock replacement on than the stock itself. So that's why I'm surprised we don't see more of these popping up right now, quite frankly. So interesting. We're going to come back to this one to see how this performs. It's a pretty straightforward analysis. It's kind of like looking at stock now, but still be interesting to see if this fellow is rewarded or not. Next up, it's a hot, crazy, nutty day. Sexy names flying left and right. They don't get much sexier, much hotter than Herman Miller Furniture Company. They produce office furniture, equipment, and home furnishings. And they are ticker symbol MLHR, trading right now about $50 and a third. Let's see, it's up $21 over the past year. So a good run for them. And it got 60 odd cents or so today. Let's go look back at that last year. A year ago, they were trading 28 and change. Remember, June 8th, that was kind of the near term high for a lot of these names. So interesting to see how that looks now in our frame of reference. And they sold off right after that. They sold off to about $20 in July, and they kind of stayed at that level until September. And they finally rallied again. Looks like they had a nice aggressive run up in September from $22 all the way to 34.5 on September 17th. So obviously a nice report there or something really kicked them into high gear. Then they kind of bounced around for a while. By December, they were trading 40.5. Then they gave it up again down to about 33 and change, and they slowly bounced back up again until looks like about April 14th, 43 and change. Gave it up yet again back down to about 38, 39 or so. And then they've been kind of on the upswing ever since, topping out pretty much right now at about 50 and a third or so, where we find them today at the 52-week apex for them right now. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. I'm going to guess, given this chart, probably something to do with the call wing, and that does appear to be the case. It's the AUG 50s going up again. We're looking kind of meaty, Mr. Rock Lobster, paying, well, we'll talk about paying in a second, but trading for $3.80. This market, again, kind of meaty, 230 at 420. That's pretty wide, these bad boys. But again, it's Herman Miller. It's not SPY, right? That's a 43, almost a 44 vol out there. If you are indeed wondering, the stock was 49 and 3/4 when these went up, so a little bit lower than they are right now. And there are earnings in this options lifespan. The next announcement is on June 28th. So this has some earnings juice baked in here as well. Mr. Rock Lobster, $3.80, about a 44 vol. You got an earnings cycle baked in. You're going out to August. It's the 50 strike, so they're already in the money by 30 odd cents here, but paying nearly $4, which is nothing to sneeze at here. What's your take on these kind of rich calls and a kind of a crazy wide market here as well in Herman Miller, sir?
Again, another surpriser post-pandemic, right? Okay, everybody going to go back to office buildings? Isn't this kind of a play on that, like a recovery play? It appears that they're buying calls. Now, again, I'm looking at the volume in this stuff, and like you see the news on the weekend, and what you do see neither of these plays, I'm just saying like the DocuSign and the Herman Miller, they're both looking for a little bit longer time frames. They're not going meme central like Mark's been doing in the looking at just like short-term calls and call spreads and stuff. They're definitely going for this is DocuSign is all about more business growth. Businesses doing more stuff. Herman Miller, like selling more furniture to businesses. So these are, COVID recovery trades. I mean, I know we've been saying this a lot. And TOSAW is always good at this. We're kind of at the top. We need that kick over the edge. So, looking to see, but these trades have, I would say, a similar whiff about them. Looking for post, after COVID, getting back to business, everybody's real excited about doing stuff again type trades. That's how they appear to me. So they have a similar flavor about them.
They do have a similar flavor, a little bit longer term. We'll put those in our to be watched category. Now, if you want something a little bit nearer term, a little bit closer to the fire, someone looking for some bang for his buck right now, listeners, then we got you covered there as well. We're going out to, I believe this is a newcomer to the odd block. This is Romeo Power. They manufacture storage batteries. So that's kind of been an interesting area. I know Tesla plays in there. A few others play in there as well. Ticker symbol, this one, RMO. Trading right now, $9.66. A rough day for them, rough year for them, off about 4% of the year. And on the day, let's see, they're off, actually up today, about half a buck here. My chart's all over the place here today. About 5.33%. This is the name that this chart's kind of interesting. I guess kind of what you expect from one of these sleepier names. It hung at $10. It was $10.05 a year ago, and it hung almost exactly at that level until November of this year. It got up to 10.5, then it gapped up to about 17 end of November. Then it kind of kept having fits and starts all the way up to its apex there, $34 even on Christmas Eve. This one really felt some, and then it just came right back off again. Almost, this was like a pump and dump almost. 19.10 by January 4th. So 10 days later, it was trading $19. And then it sold off more by March 8th. It was trading back to $9.38 again. So below where it was, most of the year of 2020. And then it's kind of just been super volatile ever since. I'll have to look and see what really kicked it into high gear. Looks like there are some lawsuits floating around this name as well, which is never good here. But let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Mr. Rockloff, looks like someone's saying Romeo ain't staying here for long. We see 4,454 of the June expiring this week, the 11th. 11 strike calls. The 11's on the 11th. Going up for 35 cents, lifting the author, like I said, nearly 5,000 times here. That is a 175 volatility. That used to bring a smile to my face. Now it's kind of just par for the course in the meme stock. It's actually low for meme stock land these days. The stock was $9.95, so it actually was higher when these went up. So these are already kind of in his face. This is an interesting one, Mr. Rocklobster. Someone's saying this thing's got to go, and it's got to go quickly before the end of the week. It's not quite as outlandish as those AMC 145s, whatever they were last week, but it's still... This guy's throwing some money into perhaps the fire, sir. What do you think about these, sir?
Interesting. I think this was a SPAC, and it's sort of doing this. All these SPACs. It almost seems like they get hit with the ugly stick, and then they sort of come back to life. So I think this is in that category. It's hard to tell if they make money or what the fundamentals are, and like. I always like to wed the options to the fundamentals if possible. And this one's just, who the heck knows what's going on with it. So, but it does look like one of those, in January, like Biden, green energy, blah, blah, blah. Every EV SPAC in the world went to $1 billion. And this one's pulled back. So it's just how much real meat's on the bone in there. But that's what it appears to me on this one. Somebody's going for meme central on this.
I think we got a candidate for Options Oddities on Friday, listeners. I think we're going to know by Friday whether these bad boys worked out or not. 175 vol. Stock's got to move a buck and change by Friday. Are you down for that? Are you into that sort of thing? I'll have to look and see the options. Maybe that makes some all sort of juicy opportunities to fade it to the upside. We shall find out. But now it's time for us to keep on rolling. Maybe Uncle Mike has an RMO strategy block for us. Let's find out. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, Uncle Mike, everyone wants to know about your strategy here for trading this latest hot SPAC RMO. So have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, let's see. How do I spell it? Cash. That's how I trade that latest one. What I want to go through today is something you can do if you want to get into the market. And you think the market might be a little bit top heavy, because after all, I think this might be a little useful to our listeners today, if it's something you're interested in, and you want to get into a stock in some way, shape, or form, but you're just concerned that maybe we're at a top right now, but there's also reason to believe that we could go up higher, and you're maybe a little bit concerned with things. So it's the collar, but I want to go through another little twist on the collar, so to speak, and make it up so that you can have it a little bit more of a reasonable style collar, if you will. So a traditional collar would mean XYZ stocks at 50. We sell a 55 covered call, and with the money we collect from the 55 covered call, we buy a 45 put, all at the same expiration, and there's no cost to it. The advantage of it is that you get upside between 50 and 55, and your downside is limited to 45. So you're essentially allowing yourself to either make $5 or lose $5 or anywhere in between. You won't make any more than 5. You won't lose any more than 5. And so that's something that there's a place for it, and a lot of people are very comfortable with it. What I want to talk about today is a modified collar, or a knockout collar, if you will. And so by doing that, I think it makes more sense in a lot of situations. So don't get me wrong, I do both. I've spent over 1,000 episodes talking about collars on this show with my investment clients, or about with how I'll do them with my investment clients. But in this case, it works a little bit different. Now, let's say that you're looking at XYZ stock and you're thinking, you know what, I love the stock at 50, but I like the stock at 50, but I would love it if it was at 45. And so what you can do is set this up in a similar method, in that step 1, buy the stock, step 2, sell the covered call at 55. But then step 3, instead of buying the 45 put, what you can do is you can buy the 50-45 put spread. And what that does is a lot of times it'll be a similar price. And so I'm making it so that all these prices are exactly the same. There's no commissions. Of course, that's not reality. This might be a little bit of a debit, could be a little bit of a credit, who knows? But it just kind of depends on where you are. I'm just trying to kind of go through the concept of what you can do here. But in this case, you have downside protection from 50 to 45. Now, once again, you like the stock at 50, but you love it at 45. So let's say you buy the stock at 50 and the stock goes from 50 to 55. Well, you have upside just as if you owned the stock outright. There'd be no difference on it, assuming you held everything till expiration, and you have a 10% gain on the stock. Wonderful. Everybody's happy. Everybody wins. Now, of course, the disadvantage to the upside is that you won't have any upside past 55, so you have to be able to live with that, so to speak. Now, let's say the stock stays the same. Everything expires worthless, and it's as if nothing happened besides the commissions and if you had any debits on this option strategy. Now, let's say that the stock goes lower. This is where this can get kind of interesting. Between 50 and 45, you have downside protection because of the fact that if you hold this trade till expiration, and I understand in the real world no one really holds trades till expiration, but I'm just trying to kind of go through this so you have an understanding of the concept of it. So if you hold the trade till expiration, the 55 call expires worthless, the 45 put expires worthless if it's between 50 and 45. At that point in time, you can exercise your put option and you sold the stock at 50, and it's as if nothing ever happened besides if it was a debit cost for the trade and the commissions. Very exciting that you have a 10% buffer. So by setting this up, if the stock stays between 45 and 55, then you won't lose any money, and you could gain up to 10%. That's pretty exciting to me. Now, keep in mind that where your risk reward is that between 45 and 50, zero risk at expiration, of course, and then your potential upside is between 50 and 55. Now, where this goes bad is if the stock goes below 45, because that's where your short put is. If the stock goes below 45, that's where your risk begins. You're protected from 50 to 45, but from 45 to 0, you have the risk of that stock. And you have to be able to manage that risk, whether you plan on holding onto the stock, getting out at a certain point, whatever the case may be. But remember, this is for a stock that you like at 50, but you love at 45. If the stock does go to the 44.68 level, well, then it's kind of like starting over with buying it at 45 if that's where it is at expiration. That is the strategy block for today. And if you find some stocks that you like that are in that position, this might be something to consider. I'm going to have more about this on my blog later today, and I will share it on my Twitter. I'll share the blog link on my Twitter at Mike TOSAW. And that is the strategy block for today, first one in June.
Check out his blog, check out his Twitter as we keep on rolling into our final segment. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show we tell you what we're watching for the rest of this week, and at least until we can come back here on the second episode of the old OB on Thursday. Seems like sell-off still pretty much in place. Markets mostly pretty close to where they were at the start of the show. Dow selling off a little bit more, closing on 0.5%. S&P closing in on 1/3%. NASDAQ still to the upside, north of 1/10% out there. So most things pretty close to where we left them at the start of the show. Also, really quickly, we got James asking here, when's the next Pro Q&A session? It is tomorrow, 1 p.m. Central with the Flow Master. Sign up for the Pro or the Plus. You should have gotten that update, that email already explaining the schedule for the week out there. It will be nice, though, if you folks have questions. We'll let you chime in for Henry tomorrow. I know you probably have a lot. What's going on with all this mad stuff we just broke down in the Odd Block? There's a ton of it going on right now. If ever there was a time to pick the brain of the Flow Master, this is it. So get those ready. Get them in now. If you have them, you can't make the live session tomorrow, send them in to us. Members, obviously, you guys are the pros. You guys get the pride of place, but we'll be nice. If there's some time left over, we'll let some of the rest of you maybe pick some brains as well here. So it should be fun stuff tomorrow, 1 p.m. Central. Now let's go back around the horn really quickly. Let's start with the rockingest of lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week until Thursday?
Well, I'm looking at this, this is kind of cool with Biogen. They got this drug passed. They halted again. No, they're not halting. It's up $128. So that was something. If you're an Option Pit subscriber, you would have saw my idea on Sunday, and you could have put it on today, or you can do like me and just closed it right now.
Really quickly, what was the idea?
I bought, either Biogen stock or the January 2022 265 calls was the idea. And also I bought the IBB July 16 160 calls. Just in case the news wasn't good, I figured I could write a put to pay for the call if the news was bad and kind of sell the down spike. So both of those paid pretty good. So
look at you talking up stock in your newsletter. Who are you, sir? What have you done with the rock?
Well, sometimes because Biogen was so hard to fill things, it got me grumpy, because I had to pay up like $2.50 for a call or something like that. I'm like, argh. So I was like, screw it, I'll just buy 50 shares. So anyway, so that is something interesting. So I think biotech's one of my closet buys, the IBB for the year. I still like it, and I'm not going to get rid of it. And what else we got? And seeing, again, VIX kind of hits this low area and does it bounce? That's the $1 million question. We had the $1 million man, and now we have the $1 million question if VIX could actually do something from here, if we can make a new low or not. So that is where we sit.
There you go. And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on through till next Thursday?
Want to see if we can break through for new all-time highs. We're right on the edge of it. We did briefly on Friday, wanting to see if that's the case. We've been having minimal movement in the bond world over the course of the last few months or a couple months, ever since we had the initial drop earlier in the year. With what's happening, we could see some of these things actually moving and shaking and getting some movement again. But in the meantime, just kind of chilling out and watching those things and waiting on the market.
And unfortunately, that music means you're not waiting on us, at least not right now. This show coming to a close. But if you need a little more, don't worry. We got you covered. We'll be back in pretty much exactly an hour. Crypto Rundown back. It's fun to have it back again. We had to preempt it for a bunch of crazy stuff. There was a holiday last week. Before that, we had the Option Block 1000th episode spectacular that ran through its time slot. So now it's back. It's been a few weeks. A few things have been happening, dare I say it, in the world of crypto options and volatility, the skew, all that cool stuff. Got some great guests joining me in the crypto hot seat. Going to squeeze two of them into the hot seat today. Let's see how they fare in that tight spot. So it should be fun. Join me in about exactly an hour for that. If you're listening live, don't worry. We'll pump some fun stuff into the chat. We'll be back again exactly in an hour live for all fun things crypto rundown. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the Uncle of Mike, sir. When you're not out there busy buying your meme stocks and your Shiba Inu coin, where should folks go to learn more about your stuff, sir?
They can follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, or visit my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor that frequents the use of options.
And who can spot most 80s wrestler scene music in a few notes or two. He had a little bit of a trouble out of the gate, but now he's finding his footing there. Uncle Mike TOSAW, at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, on the old Twitters to learn more. Mr. Rock Lobster, if folks want to go to your newsletter and learn about how to buy stock, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes you just got to buy the stuff.
Sometimes you just got to buy the stock, says The Rock.
Sometimes it is, although obviously buying a couple more calls would have made me happy, but I ain't going to complain today. So yeah, go to optionpit.com, look at our goodies, and Option Pit has basically doubled in size over the last year, and we hope to do it again next year. So there's a reason why people have been sticking around for 10 years, because they get to put their option learning on.
There you go. Check it out, optionpit.com. Speaking of checking things out, we talked about some cool exclusive gear for our members out there. Maybe one of those ones might be stock is for noobs. I trade options, something cool along those lines, just to stick it in the face of all those stock folks out there like the Rock Lobster. And on behalf of the Rockingest of Lobsters and the Unklest of Mikes, and indeed myself, thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing, for listening live. If you're listening live, stay tuned. We'll be back in 57 minutes to talk the hot, volatile world of crypto. Back again tomorrow, 1 p.m., a little bit earlier this time, 1 p.m. Central, to break all this freaking madness down with the Flow Master. Literally, you don't get chances like this too often, so take advantage of it. If you can't join us live, hit us up with your questions. You know where to find us, and get those questions in, because I got a feeling this one's going to fill up pretty quick with the Qs. So get in there. Of course, Wednesday, live Options Boot Camp, Options Playbook Radio, going to be live to tape, of course. Brian doesn't like doing the live. At least his compliance doesn't. Then, of course, Thursday, back again with episode dose of the Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.